Hey there guys, welcome back to the 5-9 channel. It's Gale right here, back with another My Hero Academia episode review, and this time we're on episode 2. Well, episode 3 technically if we include episode 0 as episode 1 and obviously so on and so forth. But that's besides the point. Today with me we have Hydra. Say hello.
What's going on, everybody? Or as I say on my channel, what's up, heroes and villains? How you guys doing? Hope you're doing well.
There you go. Hey man, we're waiting for that game, as Hydros can, you guys can clearly tell with Hydros' tone. We are waiting for that game, of course. He's got he's setting up that MHA channel ready to rock and roll. Obviously it is going to be coming out on June 15th, which is in between, season, the first half of the season and the second half of the season. So that's going to be very, very interesting and very, very exciting. But we're obviously here to talk about the anime, but obviously Hydros wasn't here last week, so you know what, we'll start off with a bit of a recap on episode 0 and 1 from Hydros' perspective, because obviously we haven't heard what he thinks about the first 2 episodes. So Hydros, let's start off with episode 0. How did you find that episode and what are your thoughts?
Well, episode 0, it starts off with, the fight with Endeavor and the Nomu, kind of finishing up where that left off, of him doing that plus ultra prominence burn, which love that move. And then finishes up obviously with him, and then also the Deku and everybody facing off against the big 3, Nezuri, Sun Eater, and Mirio, right? And it was a cool instance, but Deku then, as you realize, he hesitates because he's obviously attacking a classmate, a friend, and stuff like that, and he's hesitating, not treating him like a villain for the sake of the practice battle, right? So that's something I think that we maybe will see Deku kind of overcome, not just because he is like a soft-hearted kind of person, but he does want to be a hero, so he needs to kind of get over that. And then obviously at the end start getting into the part where Deku has the dream, and it'll be really cool.
No, for sure. I mean, we discussed this last week. I also enjoyed some of the more gaggy moments. Obviously, as a recap episode, it was probably, in my opinion, a bit better done compared to the older recap episodes where it would just literally be scenes from the previous episodes. This felt like, okay, we're telling you what these characters are, and in a more fun way and in an original way, right? Like, I still love, like, Tamaki or Sun Eater basically saying, I just want to go home, I don't want to be here and everything, as well as Mirio trying to act like he's drowning, basically, and whatnot. It was a good episode, of course. It was too good, man. His face just just outside, above the water, and just like, I'm just getting washed away. All right, save me, please.
Like, I'm washing away. Bye. Save me.
Bye. Yeah, just and he just knocks himself off of the bridge as well. That was too good. Obviously, then we move into episode 1 with the Todoroki family. Interactions. The Hawks being a mole for the League of Villains, or a mole for the heroes against the League of Villains.
I have to stop
What's
you.
up?
That is not the best moment of that episode. The best moment is Mirako, okay? She's finally shown again. Oh, the bunny lady.
I mean, I didn't specify a best moment. I mean, I really enjoyed the Todoroki family situation.
No, that makes the whole episode. Everything else sucks. No, I'm just kidding. I do love how we get to see Dabi though. That's finally good to see him again.
Yeah. Okay, so this was a theory I had. Obviously, I'm not a full-on manga reader. I haven't read all the chapters up until now. I don't know about you, Hydros, but
I don't read the manga.
There you go. So with the whole interactions we keep getting between Dabi and Endeavor and his whole obsession with Endeavor, do you think he might be a potential candidate, or Dabi's real identity could be something linking with Endeavor, in the sense like maybe he's the quote-unquote dead son, maybe, potentially? What do you think?
Well, in that episode, when you see the Todoroki family together, they're talking about the brother that isn't there, right?
Yeah.
The brother that's no longer around.
Yeah.
And the fact that Dabi has a fire quirk, and you see Endeavor, who's also had a blue flame when he literally flame blew the Nomu's head off, it turned blue.
Yeah.
So Dabi's flame being blue is very interesting to see that. And then obviously like I said, the part where the Todoroki family's talking about where their long lost brother is missing, or wherever he may be, right? And then the Dabi's obsession with the Todoroki family and just Endeavor in general, and it's very weird. My best guess is that Dabi is that brother. That's my guess right now. Again, I don't read manga, so I have no idea.
Neither do I.
that,
Yeah.
but-
So yeah.
So
I can confirm that as well, because even I don't read it, so I'm just as confused as you guys. But the thing is as well, like, we've seen other people with a fire quirk. Like, even in the episode itself, we did see somebody like have a very minor fire quirk. But the difference between, I guess, everybody else and the Todoroki family is that you can see the scale and like the power of their fire quirk. Like, it's a different level compared to the
Right.
ones that are like just minor, like, you know, lighter like flames, whereas these guys can actually, you know, properly burn shit up.
Endeavor
kinda,
literally
right?
wears fire for his costume. Like, it's
Yes,
coming out. He
exactly.
wears it as a beard. I mean, that's pretty cool. Honestly, I want.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, yeah. Why? If you don't have a beard, may as well give yourself a fire beard instead. You know, you know how it be. But yeah, no. Another thing that I think we should talk about quickly is obviously the Hawk situation. You know, him being a mole for the heroes in the League of Villains.
Right.
I felt that could personally. I mentioned this last week as well. Was like, I wish it was a bit more dragged out, in the sense of like, we didn't know he was a mole. We should have assumed he was a traitor, quote unquote. What do you think about that? Do you think they should have just immediately revealed it like the way they did, or let it be hidden and then we find out that he's actually a mole?
I don't mind the way they did it, but I do agree that, yeah, because you see him interacting with Dobby before they did the flashback to where they had all the stuff regarding to where he's becoming a mole. I think just doing that, like the part with Dobby and then him interacting with him, just it felt like, at first I was like, oh my god, like Hawks he's not even a hero, he's just being a faux hero, right? And he's not even real, and he's just playing them and getting information and stuff like that to feed to the League of Villains and stuff, which is very interesting. But then they do the flashback, and it's like, oh well, that makes sense now, right? So they're keeping tabs on him pretty much. And even then, Dobby even still, he doesn't fully trust him. If you by that part of the episode, he's just like, well, you know, because he released the Nomu and didn't even tell Hawks about it, right? Didn't he just like, screw it, here you go.
And it's the same thing as well with Dobby. Dobby also said, like, why did you save everybody? And it's like, well, I'm still a hero, you idiot. I still need to put up my facade, kind of thing, right? But yeah, no, it's just like, it seems like their Hawks is still trying to get in as well. It's not like he's fully encompassed within the League of Villains yet. Obviously, you know, people think he's the number 2 hero and everything, so obviously, you know, the League wouldn't like necessarily immediately trust him. So it's gonna be interesting to see how far he can get into the League of Villains down the line. I assume we'll probably find it out in the second half of the season, I'd assume, or maybe towards the end of this first half. Then we obviously go into what is a combination of episode 1 and 2, where we start seeing the vestiges of the previous One for All users, as well as a bit of All for One. How did you feel about the whole All for One situation, where he was taking advantage of people basically, and, you know, giving them what they want, but as One for All pointed out, you're just making them your subjects basically? How did you feel that? How did you find that whole dream sequence entirely, I suppose?
It very much suits One for All. It suits him as a villain, just sitting there like, oh well, I'll give you what you want, but now you have to now follow me in the process. Like, so now he's just building up all these people with a massive following to get where he is. And obviously, as we've seen throughout like the previous seasons and All Might, he's like, yo, you tore down all of what I've built up, right? So that kind of has crumbled over the course of the time. And the dream sequence is really cool, especially when they talk about he's only at 20%. So it's like, he can only be a, like, because as you know, his like body's covered in shadow. So it's like, as he gets control of One for All more percentage, is that like going to start fading? Is he going to get more of his body to where he can eventually talk to them? And then also the 2 figures that you don't see, it's like, why can't we see those other 2? What's the big deal about those 2 specific characters that we can't see them? We can see, well, All Might was kind of fuzzy as well in that he wasn't like totally
because I
visible,
think
but maybe
it's
that's
because he's
still
alive.
alive.
Yeah.
I feel like he's because he's alive, and then you can see Nana pretty well, and then again in episode 2, All Might and Deku were talking about it, and he's like, and I like the funny part where they're like, oh, she's beautiful, and he's like, I know.
I know, right? Yeah.
I was like, oh, please be his dad.
Nah, it's really, really cool. Like you said, it's going to be very interesting to see who the second and third users will be. Obviously, even it'll be interesting to find out the other users, period, because it's going to be interesting to see what quirks they had and what quirks, you know, Deku will be getting down the line, right? Because all of their powers will be slowly investing into him, I suppose, is what I'm assuming is going to happen, right? So,
I mean, I already know of one that's been spoiled to me. I do know one. Even though I don't read the manga, I do know of one, and I'm not going to mention it because I know people that don't read the manga aren't going to, know what I'm talking about. But that is, I think, in this season that we're going to see that.
Ooh, that's going to be interesting.
I think. I'm not sure because I don't read, so I don't know when. At one point that becomes a thing, so I don't know. Yeah. But the fact that also that with Shinzo, he flashes back to the first fight in the sports festival, and that's when he first sieges the vestiges and stuff.
Yep.
And it's like they were all kind of fuzzy then. Now he's at 20%, and because he had like little to no control back then. Now he's at 20%, so he's able to be more clear, or whatever the singularity, I guess, would be. Like, assuming he brought up the point of quirks being like combined and passed down to where it's to the point that if the quirks are going to be too powerful for anyone's body to handle, and they're just going to, the whole society's just going to die at that point.
Yeah.
I think is what the singularity is what he's talking about.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how that develops. Another thing to note as well, like you mentioned, like with the whole situation with Deku as well, is that this was the from what we could gather between All Might and Deku's conversation, and this is obviously getting into episode 2 stuff now, is that Deku's the only one who could actually interact with One For All. Before that, from what All Might said, there was no communication, no nothing. Like, it was all just vestiges, pretty much, just figures, right? So that's also a very interesting concept to see how far Deku's come along to the point where he's also interacting with these vestiges, right? It also brings up some questions to me also, like, is he going to be potentially the last one ever? Like, is he not going to be able to pass on this One For All quirk anymore? Like, that's going to be very interesting. Questions like that, basically. What do you... sorry, I interrupted you. What were you saying, Hydros?
I was going to say, because when they... Deku, I think, was the only one to see the first ever user in any of this. All Might never, I don't think, saw it. I think, as from what I remember, he said he never interacted with the very first user at all. But he was able to, I think, see, like... Because they all... Like, he was able to see, like, the sequence and stuff of, like, the past events. That's how he came to know about it, obviously. Yep. One For All, basically letting him know the past events, which I think is really cool. Instead of it getting like muffled and muttered, like just from people telling it and passing it on, One For All can literally just tell you, literally as it happened, and show you in like a dream, right? And then they flash back to Nana and All Might, to where they're talking about the vestiges, and not that just the power is being passed down, but also their feelings within themselves are also being converted into the power of One For All and being passed down as well, so that it's stored up, and that way other users will then be able to see that, and to where it's building up. Yeah, it's good. It's very, very interesting, and I hope we do discover more about this, because the more episodes and seasons we go on, we're just learning more and more about this whole One For All quirk, and we just realize it's a lot more complex than it actually was initially, right? So it's gonna be very, very interesting. Speaking of Shinzo, and of course we see him again this time. And initially we were just like, okay, he's come in, randomly just popped in with Aizawa, walking along the corridor and obviously talking to Deku and All Might. Then we find out when they're doing the Class 1A versus Class 1B situation is that he's going to be part of the hero course now rather than the normal course. It's very interesting, especially because like it didn't seem like he was out of it completely as well, like he didn't seem like, when you're in the hero course, you'd have to do some training and whatnot. He still seemed quite built, so it's as if he was actually training all this time to still be part of the hero course. Sorry, Hydros, what were you saying? I was gonna say, because was it did they say that he's already been transferred, or is this kind of like his ability, his test to where he then will be transferred following this? Because this is like his, I guess, because he's not only fighting with 1B, he's also fighting a part of 1A. He's going to be on both teams. He's going to be on, because there's going to be 2 teams of 5 that he's going to be on. And then I guess maybe that will be judging impact into how he actually gets transferred up. Whether the interesting thing that I want to know is he going to be transferred to 1A or 1B? I want him to be in 1A. I really do, just to be with Deku, because I feel like the power Shinzo has, this is just my thought, is that because of his brainwashing and because of the sports festival, where then he then saw the vestiges, and Deku kind of hinted at not hinted at it, but kind of references to where he was under the spell, and that's where he first saw the vestiges. I wonder if he maybe will try to get Shinzo to then do it again to see if he can then like kind of forcibly interact with the vestiges instead of just, I guess, being asleep and then it randomly happens, or then just having Shinzo help him out or something. That'd be really interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely. I think they did say he wants to transfer over, so I assume it's still something like we don't know exactly where he's going to be transferred or if he's even going to be transferred. I assume this training exercise is kind of his tester, I suppose. I mean, based on what he performed and how he performed towards the end of the episode, I think he's a dead cert. He should be part of the team, or any team specifically, right?
The end of the episode was so good because his mask, he just changes and he can alter his voice to be someone else's, and they not even realize it, and then they're just done. They're caught.
I'm not gonna lie, I also really like the visual effects as well as the sound effects of the mask. Like I'm a sucker for those kind of things. Like, when, especially if you look at old the first Iron Man movie and everything, the mechanical clunking and everything. I'm always a big fan of that sort of stuff. So this, the movement of the mask as well and the persona chords definitely looked very, very interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing it in the next episode. Of course, the fight wasn't completely shown in this episode. We only saw bits and bobs of it. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. And speaking of Class 1A versus Class 1B, of course, we saw the whole debate between, I think it was All Might, Aizawa, what is the other hero's name? Midnight, of course, was there as well, but who was the fourth guy? Class 1B's homeroom teacher. I don't remember his name. I think his name is Vlad Hero or something like that. I could be wrong.
It's Vlad, something like that, because he's like, he has a vampire quirk or something other, like blood. He has like a blood quirk.
Yeah,
it's kind of like vampire-esque. I can't remember exactly his name either.
Yeah, I keep forgetting his name. Sekijiro Khan is his name, but his hero name is Blood Hero of Vlad King. There we go. Obviously, they were discussing the fact that Class 1A has been in more dangerous situations. They've been in more on-field experiences and whatnot. They've turned crises into strengths, as they said, quite literally in the episode, paraphrasing it. Whereas Class 1B has obviously not had the same amount of adventures and experiences that Class 1A has had. They've been focused, dedicated to their training, and that way they've developed their quirks more than Class 1A, which is very interesting to me, because it seems like the way quirks develop is more so they need to be in a more safer environment, kind of, or a more controlled environment, I should say. Whereas it seems Class 1A hasn't been able to do the same degree as Class 1B. So what did you think of that, Hydros? The whole dynamics between a safer, controlled environment development and then throwing them into the deep end, basically, environment with Class 1A. Because that's been my biggest problem with Class 1A, is that they've been in like quite literally city level or country level threats, basically. Whereas usually, when you're in, if you look at Naruto and stuff and whatnot, they're still doing low rank missions early on when they're still genin, and then here they're just throwing them into the deep end. What do you think about that?
Class 1A has a big advantage having real world experience, which helps them a lot, but then they don't have the practical experience of being in their classroom and learning, because everything's getting interrupted every other episode with different things happening. So 1B definitely has the advantage of learning a lot of the fundamental stuff that probably 1A hasn't had the time to really learn. I mean, it seems like that a lot of them are trying to do that just in their own time anyway, throughout some of the episodes. Like, they're just like Deku being outside the dorm room and then just practicing his his quirk and his kicks and everything. So that's something that he's been doing. So he's kind of doing the fundamentals and learning, and then also being in the woods with All Might, doing his air blasts with his fingers and stuff. He's kind of doing that. But 1A definitely has the real world experience, to where when you're doing practical, you're fighting classmates or robots or in a controlled environment, but you don't have that real world experience, to where it's one thing. It's in the classroom to where, if you hesitate, it's like, oh, you try again tomorrow. But in the real world, that screws you over. You're dead. So 1A definitely has that mindset, to where they know that it is a test, but at the same time, it's like they need to go all out. A hero. Being a hero is not just. It's not. It's just, if you're a hero, it's if you mess up one time, you're messing, and it's done. That's it. So,
I mean, we kind of saw it with. We did kind of see it with Gentle in the last season, right? Where one mistake he did screwed him over entirely. He got sent to prison effectively for it, right?
Right.
So any mistake can be costly, especially if somebody dies as a result of it, right? So it's definitely very interesting, and I'm really appreciative that this dynamic is finally coming into the season or to the series as a whole, because that's been my biggest problem since day one, is like, how are class 1A just, being sent into these real world threats without any concerns, considering they're literally a first year class effectively, right? And none of the other classes are, doing the same thing. And it's like, there has to be some drawback to it, or there has to be something against that idea. And I'm glad to see this season is going to be very interesting to see how that dynamic actually works out, and when we're actually pitting a safe environment versus the, as you said, real world experienced fighters environment, right? Speaking of fights,
the class 1B get their provisionals. I can't remember if they did or I think it's only 1A.
During the I think during the exam. No. I know
1B wasn't during with 1A because they have different classes in different testing areas, so 1A would never have fought with 1B.
No.
But I can't remember if 1B actually did the provisional or not. That's my thing. I can't remember.
I think they did do their provisional, and I think all of them passed. Whereas in 1A we know that 2 people failed, right?
Right, but they're doing the course for that. Todoroki and Bakugo, they're doing.
Yeah, Todoroki and Bakugo are doing the course, but I think class 1B, I think everybody passed in there. So that's also kind of evidence as well. Like,
oh, that's right, because they gloated about it. They did. I remember that episode.
Yeah. Now I remember as well. Okay. Yep. So yeah, no, it's that's another example of like, technically, if you're doing the normal course, there's an example of that. So yeah, no, it's gonna be very interesting to see that. But let's get on to the 5 battles that are going on, right? So we have 5 matches, I think it is, or teams of 4, and then on top of that, effectively 2 teams one from each side will have the addition of Shinso. What do you think of these matchups, first and foremost, Hydras? What do you think about them? Obviously, we have the first one, which was it had obviously Frog Girl. It had
Sue Kaminari, Kirishima. What's the animal guy?
I don't remember his name. He's the bird guy. I remember him as the bird guy now because of the thing that happened.
I know his hero name is Anima.
Yes.
And that's what is it? Either way. And then they have like the girl with the vine hair, the man beast. I don't know what the other two's powers are though.
I think she.
Oh no, the other guy is the one that can like blow air out of his mouth, because we saw him during the sports festival.
Prison, yeah, the air prison. We did also see him do the air prison. Yeah, I don't remember the 4th person in it, but it's very interesting to see these matchups. And obviously we do know the final matchup is also going to be Deku versus Shinso, which I mean, I kind of was expected the way they were setting it up.
Right.
Overall, I think this is going to be very interesting. I'm kind of interested to see I'm very surprised they split the teams the way they did. Like, Bakugo's on a very random team, Todoroki's on a random team. Because what I was thinking they would have done was probably do Deku, Uraraka, Todoroki, and Bakugo. Would have been my thought. Like, that would have been the final team to go up against. But, it is what it is. But what do you think about the matchups and everything that happened in the second half of the episode, Hydros?
I feel like a lot of these matchups is meant to be obviously more random. It's not meant to be like, oh, let's put the best people together and that's how it's gonna work. Because if we did Deku, Bakugo, Todoroki, Ochako, Ida on like a team or something, that's just OP. No one's gonna. I feel like that would be easy. So now I think like a lot of these different ones, like we have Tetsu against Todoroki and the others on their team, and it's like, so what is Todoroki? Is Todoroki gonna heat up Tetsu? Is he gonna start to melt? Like, that's gonna be a thing.
Yeah.
And the tail guy, whatever. What is his name?
Tailman. I think his name is literally Tailman, I think, or something like that.
I want to know. I can't remember other names. I don't remember some of the main characters, but they're all kind of main characters, I guess. But yeah, it's interesting to see some of these matchups. Like, I mean, Todoroki, Ida, the tail guy. Then you got Bakugo, Jiro, Tape Arms, and Sero, and who's the Sugar Man, whatever his name is. Against I don't even know the other ones on the other team. Like
I think
the 4 random characters that just were introduced this episode, I think.
Yeah, I think that one of them is like Jack Mantis and Lizardy, but that's about it. Literally all I know.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they probably also want to see them start to see other team dynamics, not just with same people they're always with, but then try to build dynamic with the rest of the class. especially with Bakugo, it's going to be really, really interesting.
Oh my god, that matchup is going to be fire. It's round 4, I think it is, right? That's going to be very, very interesting, to be honest.
And you got Deku, Mineta, Ochako, and Mina. So that's going to be an interesting matchup too.
Yeah.
See them working together. I mean, Deku and Ochako already worked together, and Deku and Mineta has already kind of worked together as well during the USJ incident. But Mina, I mean, we never really seen her with Deku or any of the others as well. So her Aceville will probably come in handy, I imagine.
No, it's going to be very, very cool. And obviously, they're the ones going up against the 5-man team of, I think it was Phantom Thief and obviously Shinzo, as well as the other 3 in that team. So yeah, it's gonna be very, very interesting overall. This match though, the little we saw of the first match, right, is, I mean, we already spoke about Shinzo's persona chords and everything. Very interesting shot of Froppy, I must admit as well. At one point, I don't know if you noticed the shot I'm talking about, Hydros, with Froppy.
I mean, it's a very interesting angle that we had to go with, but it's interesting that Shinzo also pointed out, because I mean, in this not the sports festival, but when they did their licensing, Froppy had her camouflage was like near about totally invisible. It seemed. Now it's like, now she can be seen if you know where she is. Like if you can tell where she is, you literally can pick her out of her camouflage. And then obviously that happened with Beast, right? He just literally pummeled in and just grabbed her.
Yeah.
But maybe it's because he also has that sense of smell heightened because of his beast form too. That could be also. I'm not sure.
Possibly
if it's
also
one or the other.
I guess it's both sight and smell, arguably, because as an animal you have heightened senses. We kind of assume that, or more often than not, right?
It's like a predator prey situation, because Froppy's a frog and he's a beast, right? So
yeah, I mean, it works really well in that situation, right? But yeah, no, it's going to be a very interesting matchup. Who do you think is going to win the fight? Now that we've seen this, like a little bit of the fight, next episode, who do you think is going to win the fight?
I feel like 1A might, just because of Shinzo. It's because again, he's showing off that he can change his voice now and copy someone else's. Very interesting. So I wonder how that's going to play, because he's already gotten control of Beast, it seems now. And they did mention that his quirk for Beast, if he goes too much, then he just becomes uncontrollable, right? So I wonder, Shinzo's going to start controlling him a bit, and then he's just going to go rampaging about afterwards, like just going after everybody or something.
Yeah.
The fact that Anima was kind of just imprisoned just kind of left him in the dust, just sitting there, right? Unless he can get broken out of that bubble.
Well, I see him. Do you think? Well, we don't know exactly. Do we know how Air Prison Guy's quirk works? Like, if he's distracted, does that mean he can get out? Or
I'm not sure, because the only thing we know of is from the sports festival. It says that he can harden the air around. That's pretty much it. I don't know if they mentioned that. I don't remember specifically if they mentioned that if something happens, like it loosen. Oh no, they did. The more he intakes his breath, the stronger the air wall is. So the deeper the breath, the better that the person could be. So if he just does a short breath and then does it, then it'd probably be a weak sort of air prison, and someone strong enough could probably break out. But I don't know. Is the air prison weaker from the outside? It feels like maybe it's stronger on the inside, but if someone comes up to the outside and just starts smashing on it, then maybe maybe the air prison is weaker that way.
That's going to be very interesting to see how that's going to work, man. It's going to be very interesting. But before we wrap up, any final thoughts from your end about the episode in general? Oh, actually, before we wrap up, OP and ED, I'm going to ask this question to everybody. How did you find the opening and ending of the season so far? The first half, at least.
I like the OST at the beginning, the ED at the beginning. I like the ending too. That's not.
Yeah.
I've not really had a negative thought about any of them so far from any of the season. I think they're pretty good.
Nice, nice.
It's catchy, interesting. Yeah, visuals are nice. It's
I know a lot of people are
off my back.
Yeah, a lot of people are complaining about the visuals of the opening, and I'm just there like, nah, it fits really well to the theme. We know that it's going to be Class 1A versus 1B. We kind of knew that pretty much from like the preview of last season and obviously what's happening this season. So I wasn't too mad about it. The opening itself, the song, I was like, it's okay. Ending I really liked, so I was like, that's perfect. That's okay for me. But yeah, any final thoughts on the episode as a whole before we wrap up, Hydros?
Well, we didn't say. I wanted to mention this, that Shinzo coming out of the door with Aizawa you really look at them side by side, they look so similar. Not even just in their look, but their personality. Shinzo and Aizawa, just the way their eyes are and everything. It's just, it's like, is that his son? Like, what the heck, right?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
The fact that he's taking after Aizawa with the scarf now and stuff, it's not even that. Aizawa has the eye goggles protecting his eyes. Now he has the mouth guard, not only for changing his voice and the vocal cords, but also it's probably a protective part for his mouth and jaw, so that in case he gets hit there, it lessens the impact, doesn't like destroy his mouth.
Yeah, it's good. It's gonna be very, very good for him actually to have that mouthpiece, because like if he gets punched and say it breaks his nose or something, or you know his jaw or something, then he wouldn't be able to use his power anymore, right?
Well, does it also cover his like neck area? Because that's where, I mean, if he doesn't cover his vocal cords, if someone just karate chops his freaking throat, you're also done that way. So I mean, maybe that would be a future upgrade if he doesn't have that currently.
Yeah, I'm trying to check. Let me just double check right now if I can see the mouthpiece properly right now.
I feel like it did have a neck guarded area.
Well, the problem is the problem is the clothing that he has is up to his neck, right? So I can't really notice if the mask goes all the way to his neck or not. But if you guys in the comments know from maybe the manga or something that he has that actually as a piece, if it's better detailed in the manga, let us know if it does cover his neck. But yeah, I think that wraps up this episode review. If you guys enjoyed it, as I mentioned, leave a like. Comment down below what do you guys think of this episode. Let us know who do you guys think will win between Class 1A and 1B, at least this first match, and maybe overall. You guys can put your comments in the down below in the comment section, of course. Subscribe for more content. We will be back next week for another MHA Season 5 review, obviously Episode 3, which we will, I assume, find out who's actually going to win between the first matchup between 1A and 1B. But Hydros, thank you so much for joining me today. We will see y'all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.